Turn the lights back on. Wow. Retro electro tech. When real audio ruled the world.
Greetings once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is Retro Ernest of Retro Electrotech, and what I have here on the bench is this Rotel RCD-955AX as an alpha X-ray. It's a CD player from right around 1991. This unit came to me with a seized loading tray issue, and upon my initial evaluation, I did notice that it would try to open just slightly, and then it would stall, and that's about it. Now I did check around the opening to verify whether or not there was any binding going on around the opening, and it didn't appear that there was. And even when I opened it up, it didn't appear that there was any misalignment of along the track or anything like that. Everything appeared to be straight. It seemed to be aligned just fine. And when I would manually manipulate it and bring it open, it seemed to do okay. The bulk of the problem, from what I could confirm just with initial testing and whatnot, seemed to be mostly related to the belt. And although this belt is intact, and I will mention too that it was sitting on the pulleys, on the belt path here, these pulleys, it was sitting on there with some firmness to it. It wasn't completely stretched to oblivion and flopping in the wind. Although the one thing I will say though is it doesn't necessarily have to be stretched really bad for there to be issues with slippage. Okay, just a slight amount of stretch, just enough, can cause that, especially when there's other reasons why there may be increased friction that the motor and the pulleys, the belt and all that have to overcome, and I'm just going to explain that in just a minute here, which I believe is the case with what's going on here, especially considering that, as I already mentioned, I didn't notice any misalignment that was causing any binding or anything. So let me go ahead and set this belt down. But with this tray assembly here and this plate, okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up, and you'll notice here, I don't know if the camera will show the detail, but there's quite a bit of dirt all throughout here. It really does need to be cleaned up, and you can see this residual grease here that has since degraded, and degraded grease has a tendency to dry out. It becomes cakey and flaky and kind of flakes off and just goes away, okay? And then you're left with no lubricant. So this whole tray assembly here needs to be thoroughly cleaned, okay? All of these tracks in here, okay, need to be thoroughly cleaned, and the plate here, okay, same thing. These rollers and just everything just needs to be cleaned and lightly relubricated, okay? And when I say lightly, I mean you don't go through and just start greasing up everything. And also too, the right type of lubricant, the right type of grease has to be used, and again, just applied where applicable, and you just don't smother it all over the place. And so anyways, that's what I'm going to be doing with all these mechanisms that obviously support the travel of this tray in and out. So just to overcome any additional friction that may currently be in these mechanisms right now, due to the fact that, as I mentioned, the lubricants have degraded and have since gone away. Same thing with these pulleys. I'm going to remove them. I'm going to just clean and relubricate everything and just get everything moving nice and slick, including, like I said, this tray, everything just moving right along its ranges of range of travel, nice and smooth, and that will greatly assist these, not only the motor, but these pulleys, the new belt and all that, so you don't get any slippages that's trying to fight to get that, to overcome increased friction. So anyways, that's where I am. Oh, and by the way, with lubrication, I use like a Dow Corning, like a Moly Coat EM30L, which is a polyalpha olefin or something like that, a synthetic lubricant, plastic safe. In fact, it's made for that. It's made for these applications specifically, okay? So it works really well. It's not too viscous. That's another thing. You don't want to just go sticking grease in there that's really super viscous, and again, that will add to the friction that has to be overcome by the motor and the belt and all that stuff, and you don't want to bind things up with grease. In other words, it's you can do it either way. You can bind it up with dirt and a lack of grease, but you can also bind it up with too much grease or the wrong kind of grease, is the point I'm trying to make. So anyways, that's that. So I have the belt on order, and in the meantime, I'm going to get everything cleaned up and strategically re-lubricated. And also too, the customer did mention that every once in a while a CD will skip, but really, in all honesty, considering the age of this unit and the fact that over the years, CDs, there's all types of CDs out there nowadays, and sometimes recorded CDs versus commercially pressed CDs and all that, there'll be a difference there. Some will skip, some won't, some will play just fine. I think in general, this unit was working just fine. He had mentioned just once in a while, there might be some skipping. So, and again, that could just be a CD issue, is my point, and not necessarily anything going on otherwise with any of these adjustments, unless there's something that has absolutely got to be addressed, a clear and present malfunction going on, or something is just way out of the ballpark in terms of adjustment and needs to be brought back in. That's something that you usually don't want to screw with unless it absolutely has to be done, because sometimes that can open up a whole other can of worms. So sometimes it's better just to leave well enough alone, is the point, if it doesn't have to be messed with. But as far as everything else, if there's not a problem present with the audio end of things and adjustments and optical pickup issues and all that, then I'm not going to create one where there isn't one. So that's the point. Or otherwise, it can end up tipping the scales outside of the budget. So I'm going to leave well enough alone and just recommend that he just experiment with his different CDs, determine which ones play the best and so forth. And I can almost guarantee you that probably most of his good commercial CDs are probably going to play better, and maybe some from the past, maybe some from the present, but again, it varies. There's so many different types of CDs out there and all that. So anyways, that's about it. I'm going to end this here, and like I always say, peace, love, rock and roll, and of course, vintage audio. Okay, so that's what it's all about here, vintage audio repair and restoration at Retro Electro Tech. So till next time, take care of yourselves.
This is a poor man's shoe production.